I reference Paul Akers again. You look him up. He wrote this book, 2 Second Lean, and it's all about just making like little daily continuous improvements. Our team, we're doing a big rollout on some self-contained cases. Our team just launched a whole, like more of a flow production line. They tested that out, and then because we needed more capacity, they replicated that line, made some improvements. I walked the floor, gave some ideas of, what I've seen in some of the Japanese manufacturing plants, and they've implemented some of those things. But I told them too, I said, what you need to do is grab the pictures of what it was before, and grab pictures and make some notes, and then share that with other people in the company. Tell the story to the other people in the company, because I think that kind of thing will get other people excited. Hey, I can do that. I can fix what bugs me too, right? In my daily life, in my daily work.
Hey gang, Greg here on the Built2Suit podcast. It is built to build what is next, a pod you really need to see. And today we have a really cool gentleman with us from north of the border in Canada. I think he is our first north of the border participant in the Built2Suit podcast. Probably an infamous thing, not a super thing. It is Chris Schotsman, who is the Vice President of Sales and Marketing and chief cook and bottle washer and designer and everything else I can figure out. Welcome in to the pod.
Thank you. And don't hold the Canadian thing against me, please.
I don't think so. I don't think we'll do that. Cayuga Displays is a really interesting company. We've had folks on the pod from larger display companies. There's certainly larger equipment manufacturers, but you seem to do a broader range of stuff than, say, a Hussman or a Hill. You do refrigerated work, but you also do non-refrigerated stuff.
Yeah.
What got you into all that?
Well, back in 1980, so the original founder of the company, he was a home builder in the little town of Cayuga, Ontario, Canada, basically in between Buffalo and Toronto. He was approached by the local IGA to make some tables for the produce department, and he said, sure, I can do that. So they did that, and then the wholesale group that was servicing all the IGAs in Ontario picked that up, and they said, this is really good. This is a great program. So they started rolling it out, and that's kind of how it evolved from there. And then, the temperature-controlled side of the business, Hussman used to have a factory near us in Brantford, Ontario, when we would subassemble cases for them and build ends, that kind of a thing. That was eventually shut down, but that was a big part of our business. So we always kind of dabbled in it, and customers said, I need this Olive cart, or I need this, salad bar. Can you guys do any of this kind of thing? So eventually we got into that. We purchased a little company, we didn't get much out of it, but it got us in the business.
How did you get to displays? I mean, tell me a little bit about what you went through to get all the way here.
Well, going way back, my dad was an entrepreneur. He was an electrical contractor, and he started his own other little businesses. So I've always been in manufacturing and always been kind of surrounded by this entrepreneurial culture in manufacturing. So I went to business school, and I got into the automotive business, working for automotive parts supply manufacturers, supplying parts to the OEMs. And my role was kind of the sales support, eventually sales manager. I worked for a Japanese company calling on the OEMs at that time. So spent quite a number of years doing that, about 15 years. But I got tired of having to negotiate how much money I was going to give back to them every year and that kind of thing. So I approached my brother, who was part of Cayuga Displays, Cayuga Cabinets at that time. He was invited to be part of this company by the original founder. He was supplying components to the company. And then the original founder's name was John Van Reenen, said to my brother Rick, he said, "Hey, I want you to come work for me, take over the company. My daughters are not interested." I talked to Rick, and he said, "Yeah, I could use some help." And yeah, I joined mid-2000. 21 years later, here we are.
Dad didn't see problems, he saw opportunities.
That's right.
So
yeah.
talk about how that shapes, the way you lead.
Well, I learned, my exposure to working in a Japanese culture, the benefits of long-term thinking and lean thinking. There's a gentleman called Paul Akers, who's a big lean guy. He says, fix what bugs you. So that's kind of, my mantra, and we try to build that kind of feeling within our culture, continuous improvement, always looking at ways to make things better, maybe not, progress, not perfection, that kind of a thing.
When did you realize it's not carpentry? It's actually merchandising.
Yeah, the food retail business is very much driven by merchandising and, trying to create a great environment for the shopper and helping people, buy food and make good choices, that kind of a thing.
Make good choices. I like that.
Yeah.
So you're 21 years in now, right?
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing you do on a daily basis? Because I feel like you're doing a lot more than selling.
Well, I mean, as a leader of the company, you always got to think about the future. I'm always looking at, okay, we're at this level now. We want to be at this level. What's the next thing? And what do we need to do to get there? Not just in terms of landing the next big account, but how is that going to execute? How are we going to make that happen? Part of my role now is evolving to be more of a mentor to the next generation of leadership team. And it's like, have you thought about this? Have you looked at this? And walking the shop floor and just seeing things, we've been hiring a bunch of young people lately, and you hear this kind of this negative story all the time that young people don't know how to work these days and all that kind of stuff and these generalizations. And that's not been my experience, not been our experience. I'm really pleased with some of these new young people, and that gives me hope for the future of the company, because we've got people that we can look to who's gonna be the next leaders. We're always looking internally, like we need to fill this spot. Who can we move up and move, forward? Yeah.
So that's a really good segue. If you could give like 1 year Chris, first year Chris, one rule for career compounding, what you did, where you started, and how you get to where you got. What do you think that rule might be?
I think you got to look for people that you can look up to, and you can say, hey, latch on to people who can be mentors. Maybe sometimes it's a good idea to just say, hey, would you be my mentor? I don't necessarily do that, but there are people that I met early in my career who said things to me, helped me out. And that stuck with me for a long, long time, So listen, be humble, and just be curious. Ask questions. Hey, why did you do things that way? What's your strategy? What's your thinking there? That kind of a thing.
We're going to put your other hat on. We're going to take your mentor hat off. Now.
Okay.
We're going to put your merchandising hat on.
Yep.
And so I'm going to ask you just a random question. When a store feels fresh or feels great, what's actually doing the work, you think?
It's things like, how's the lighting? Is it clean? Fundamental things. Are the displays well signed? Can you understand how much this thing is and what's it's telling me? Things like signage are so important. Are the displays, do they look good? Do they complement the product? Do they make the product stand out? Or do they detract from the product? Is there a match between the quality of the product on display and how it's being displayed? I find often there's a disconnect that way. You're somebody selling a beef tenderloin for $75 a pound, and they're selling it out of a 40-year-old case that's got tape on it, or that just does that. That doesn't work. If you go to buy a Mercedes, you don't expect to go to a junkyard to buy something like that.
You expect the environment to match up with your expectations
Yeah.
of the product. That makes sense. So if we look at product mix, you mentioned lighting, layout, or all kinds of things. I said, in your experience, where does merchandising really start? I mean, at what level does that thing start, you think?
What are you trying to achieve? What's the plan? And the merchant has to think about their customer. Who's your ideal? It's no different than us trying to identify our ideal customer. The merchant has to identify their ideal customer. What's that profile, and what are they going to be interested in? What's going to make them stop and pay attention to what I'm trying to sell? I'm not a merchandiser, but I would say the planning piece is critical, and there's a whole lot of things that are involved in that. I do think when you put a door on something, it does inhibit sales. But people get used to it. Like Europe everything's behind doors, right?
New York, everything's behind a lock.
And
a door.
Yeah. I think in North America, we just fight it, right? Like, there's a big case to be made for putting doors on cases, from an energy benefit, a store comfort benefit, right, for the shopper too.
So you sit right in between the merchant and the store designer, I guess.
Yeah, and then the procurement people get involved at some point.
So what do those worlds do that tend to produce this misunderstanding? What's the most misunderstood practice between the two of them?
Planning and merchandising, I think they work fairly well together. It's when the procurement people get involved. Like, I won't get any details, but we just went through a whole experience where we've been working with the planning and the merchandising team to execute a big program, big program, rolling out across Canada. And then, boom, it goes to the commercial department. And they basically wasted 4 weeks trying to get us to reduce our price. And the other team was saying, well, no, we've already spec'd this in. We're not changing anything. This is what we're going to do. And at the end of the day, we got our price. I wasn't budging on it. If you don't want it, you go somewhere else. But, the one side was saying, we need this. You got to meet this timeline. And the other side saying, we want you to squeeze your price and all this kind of stuff. So I see that kind of boneheaded in some of the largest companies doing silly things like that. Like, just work with me as a supplier and let's have a open, frank conversation. What are you trying to achieve? What can we do? And then we'll try to come, to a point that makes sense for both of us.
What needs to surface for a piece design to be successful? For something like that thing to be successful? Beyond that, what synergy needs to happen?
I love it when you are able to have a conversation with the merchandising team and with the planning people. I find a lot of times there's the procurement people tend to be the gatekeeper. So they get the requests from the merchandising people, from the planning people, you need to find me this. But you don't, me as a manufacturer of the equipment for the merchandising people, you don't get access to them. So, you're always getting filtered because they're scared. They're scared the merchandisers are going to get so excited about this and they're not going to worry about cost and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, you're going to be a lot further ahead if you work together as a team collaboratively we're not stupid. We understand cost is important, but we also understand you need to make sales and you need to get ROI. So what is the best solution for you to get sales?
That's a real interesting point because I think the merchants don't get the credit they deserve for putting themselves on the line to say, if we do this, we can earn this in a spot.
Yeah.
And I think the other one I see some is when product gets merchandised it's just too much product. And how do you as a manufacturer kind of coach, hey, that's just too much product, that's just going to be cluttered and a mess, as opposed to, hey, we'll build what you want?
I often tell people you'll sell more at the end of the day if you put one variety of product on that bakery table than if you put 6 varieties. You will sell more. It's research. We're supposed to be the experts, so we've got to push back sometimes.
Do you ever get a peek behind the curtain after you deliver something and see how something's performing from a financial point of view? You ever get to see that?
Yeah, I love to get that data. It's hard to get customers to give that up to you, but like I said earlier, that's a big part. I like to go in, get pictures of our stuff in the stores, ask them how it's working. I want to talk to the people who are actually using the equipment. How is it working for you? Because it's good to hear how good it is, but it's also good to hear, well, this is great, but this could be better, because then I want to bring that back to the team, and it's the whole idea of continuous improvement. My nephew is the engineering manager, so I'll walk in and say, hey, Tom, this is what I'm hearing from people in the field. Can we do something about that?
So we've talked a little bit about the big boys. I mean, what do you think the regionals are doing different than the nationals in the way they apply your product?
I mean, it's about service to knowing their customer, their local community, giving back to the community. I think they have a easier time of connecting to the community in a sense. So I see that a lot, and a lot of them are more full service. So some of the bigger retailers are more focused on like lower price points, mass, that kind of a thing. Whereas more of the regional players are more of what we experience anyway, more of a full service kind of a retailer. So full deli departments and bakery and prepared foods and meat and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, you mentioned Maverick, so you got convenience and you got urban markets.
Yeah.
How's the rules changed for those guys, you think?
Well, I mean, we generally see stores are getting smaller. If you're a smaller player, you're not going to have access to the great sites, because these big companies, they have big full real estate teams and they're out there.
Yeah, they'll beat you to them.
Yeah. So that's a real challenge.
When we originally spoke a few weeks ago, you talked a little bit about the platform you build on, and you built that platform from the automotive industry, and the thought that things are sort of prototypical, with maybe just different things bolted on. At what point does that kind of customization stop being customization and being the risk to the way the product gets built and deployed?
I learned years ago in the automotive industry, well, these parts that I sell, they would go on a Toyota and they would also go on a Lexus, common parts, but it's not the visual sexy piece that the customer interacts with. It's, there's a lot of that kind of thing that goes on. So a lot of the way we've designed our product is the same way. So we have standard platforms, and then we have a lot of different customized options that you could add to it. So it looks custom to the customer, but it's efficient for us to produce. And we're constantly trying to build more standardization on those platforms, especially now with our HMR lineup. So salad bars, soup bars, hot food bars. We're building that product line out to standardize as much of that as we can, but give people options so we can change the look, the finish. We have different sneeze guard options.
Anything hard to keep standard?
Yeah, I, produce departments. It seems like every retailer wants to put their stamp on their produce department and make it
The
different.
best in the world.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
I get that because produce is a huge
Oh
reason
my
why people
goodness.
shop at a store,
The
right?
perishable perimeter, right?
Yeah.
That's supposedly that's where
Yeah.
all the money gets made. That's what we're told anyway. The stuff in the middle is pure commodity. The
Yeah.
stuff on the perimeter
Yeah.
is your kind of special sauce. If we stay on the lean front for just a
Mm-hmm.
minute,
Yep.
so variability hurts
Mm-hmm.
in
Yep.
lean. I know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because we produce a wide variety of product here,
Yeah.
but there's engineering time, procurement, fabrication, assembly, installation. Where do you think it hurts the most?
Well, there's a lot of risk involved, right? Right? Um, there's is it going to work right? If is it going to fit right? Are we going to have defects that we don't catch because it's non-standard? Is it going to take more time? Are we going to make money at it? Those are all the factors that come into it. I would say for us, a bottleneck process is our engineering and design department. And that's where it hurts us because it plugs that whole area up. So we can't flow. Like talking about lead, it starts right at the beginning. It starts in the sales process, right? All the way through to shipping and follow up. And that clogs us up if we have too many of these variables that we have to redesign and make new drawings, get approvals. It just slows everything down. So, yeah.
So does certifications really drive what can't be done?
Yep.
DOE, UL,
Yep.
NSA, NSF, those
Yeah,
kind of things.
yeah.
Do those get in the way sometimes?
So on the dry, like the non-refrigerated side, people, well, you can just make that out of wood and change that, and that's easy. Yeah, okay, sort of, but there are issues with that. But on the temperature control side, that's kind of like sometimes a nice thing to fall back on. People get it. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, you got to go through the whole R&D, testing, engineering, and certification piece, which is time and thousands of dollars, all that kind of stuff. So that's why we can't do that, what you're asking us to do. But we can give you this. And like, why reinvent the wheel? It works.
What manufacturing feedback do you consistently see going back to your design team?
Making sure we work with the bills of materials right for all the parts, making sure like somebody didn't draw this, somebody cut corners and didn't draw this properly, or this hole is missing, or this size is wrong. A lot of times it's wiring complaints, like why did they design it this way, and but that sometimes that involves outsourced components that we have to add into our cases, and there's a lot of complexity in wiring all this stuff up.
So we got lean success in a factory, but how much of that lean success shows up really when you get out to the install?
That's a big part of it is designing up front for the install. So talking to contractors, talking to people who actually receive the equipment, install the equipment, set it up, service it. All that feedback, what we try to do is build that into the design of the product.
Apparently, a grocer bought a case and it got dropped off the back of a truck. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Oh, yeah. So, we shipped a case down. It was Louisiana or something like that, and they didn't know how to unload the truck apparently, and they dropped it and fell right on its on its front, or upside down in the parking lot. So they righted it up and they plugged it in, and it still ran. They just needed some of the external panels, the wood panels on the outside, and we just replaced a few of those parts and the plexi parts. So that was I love to tell those stories too, especially to the design team and to the manufacturing team.
That's really interesting. Any other pain points you think a good case design kind of eliminates before the product ever ships?
Is it easy to work with? Can you clean it? Is it easy to clean? Is it easy to service? Does it, highlight the product? That's all what it's all about. I mean, people eat with their eyes. So when they walk up to that case, is it making the product really stand out and look great? That's the important thing. I'll use our food bars, for example, salad, bars, hot food bars, soup bars. When we started researching the market and getting approached to build these things, we would build a whole like a Noah's Ark and drop wells into it, but eventually we learned and we
Two
found
giraffes were just too many.
Yes, and so we learned like what were the pain points in the industry. It was always like an engineering project. I heard stories of it just took 6 weeks for somebody to get a quote because they had to engineer this whole thing. So that just didn't make sense to us. So designing it in modules that are easy to assemble and you can mix, it's like Lego. We always use that term Lego. So a lot of what we try to do is using that kind of Lego mentality, just be able to mix and match, and because no store is the same, right? Like no food bar is the same. It's always different depending on the situation. So designing those cases that are module, they can just bolt together. We build them on casters. You wheel them off the truck, put them in place, bolted together, drop the sandy legs, push the kicks on. Works really well. Things like the electrical raceways, have we thought about that? Have we thought of how they're going to be able to plumb these cases or hook up the refrigeration? Is that accessible? Where are the controls located? How is the wiring done? Is it easy to access? What kind of components do you put in your self-contained cases? Is it some proprietary cheap offshore thing that you can't get, but you saved a few bucks? Or is it a name brand component that a service company can get, easily replace it and get it up and running?
So salad bar, probably not something you'd characterize as productized, probably more of a custom request. What do you need to be true kind of internally with your business before you commit to doing something highly customized?
It's like 90-10. So 90% we can build it off of our standard platform, and then 10% it might be this custom filler piece or a POS station or a soup unit or something like that has to be custom. So we can handle that, but we're always trying to get better at that. So we are starting to standardize those components as well so that we can pull all these elements out of our catalog and make everybody's life easier.
Cayuga wants to be lean, wants to be programmatic, wants to deliver a product that's a really cool product. So how does lean kind of envelop the overall organization? I know I've wanted lean to take over here a little bit more. Does it resonate with people in the company?
I reference Paul Akers again. You look him up. He wrote this book, 2 Second Lean, and it's all about just making like little daily continuous improvements. You've probably heard of Atomic Habits. It's that same kind of concept. Make 1% improvement every day. So our team, we're doing a big rollout on some self-contained cases. Our team just launched a whole, like more of a flow production line. They tested that out, and then because we needed more capacity, they replicated that line, made some improvements. So, I walked the floor, gave some ideas of, what I've seen in some of the Japanese manufacturing plants, and they've implemented some of those things. But I told them too, I said, what you need to do is grab the pictures of what it was before, and grab pictures and make some notes, and then share that with other people in the company. Tell the story to the other people in the company, because I think that kind of thing will get other people excited. Hey, I can do that. I can fix what bugs me too, right? In my daily life, in my daily work. Yeah.
How do you decide yes we can versus no we can't?
The reason our company is in business is to help people succeed. If this thing you're asking me to do is not going to help you succeed, not going to help me succeed, that doesn't make sense. But I try to give options. So this is what I can do that's going to help you succeed, or I can point you in another direction. If I can't do it, I can call on my resources. I have people, maybe Kuhachi and Peterson knows people that can help you. I can hook you up. I try to do that all the time. What I want to do is have them contact me and ask me a question.
So you you build a lot of equipment that's designed to be really functional equipment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But when I look at the other players in the industry who build more volume equipment,
Yeah.
you're building more jewel box equipment
Yeah.
or more things that serve a very nuanced purpose.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How do you bring the creativity to that? Because you are a totally different manufacturer than a bigger national manufacturer of just standard refrigeration gear specifically.
Yeah. Like it's good to think about your competition, but sometimes it puts us into a box. And so, see what others are doing, but try to just think differently and see things differently. And, really understand what's the purpose of this? What are we trying to achieve? What's the end goal of what this merchandiser is going to do? Basically it's to elevate sales, make it a better shopping experience,
So do you guys have a discernible method of design, this method of turning this idea into something you can manufacture?
Well, that's going to be getting into this collaborative design process, so having more voices at the table, evaluating the opportunity. Does it make sense? And, a sales team, we're always getting feedback. We're always talking to customers. We're going into stores, talking to people. So bringing that to the table and saying, hey, look, I keep hearing about this. Maybe it's something we should look at, as an opportunity.
In the grocery business specifically, certainly the manufacturing business, it seems size matters, but you're not anywhere near as big as some of the biggest case manufacturers. So, how do you position yourself thoughtfully to understand what you want to achieve and the sizes you want to work in and the markets you want to play in? Because I know logistically there's stuff about shipping stuff too far, but I mean, is there a size that's too big for you, or is there there's got to be a sweet spot?
Yeah,
That's what I'm looking
exactly.
for.
You're right. And so what we focus on, especially in the U.S., is more the regional players. We don't go after, the huge national chains in the U.S. We do some more of that in Canada, but it's a different scale. And when we do get invited to bid on big projects, we'll pick what makes sense to us and where we can add value. So I'll use the example. Some years ago, we were invited to quote on some cases for a huge international coffee chain. You would know it. And we did. We went all through the process, and we explained. We were very transparent about what our capacity was and what we could do and what we couldn't do. We went to their head office, did the presentation. I mean,
Drank some coffee.
Yes, and they make you go through, answer.
I don't know who you're talking about, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, they make you answer 50,000 questions, and it was a good process.
Was it good coffee? Is what I want.
Yeah, it was fine. And they said to us, we didn't win it, but they said we were very well respected in that we were very honest and transparent about what we could do, what our capacity was.
From a size point of view, what's a juicy red customer to you?
Regional chain of like a few hundred stores. We do, can I say a customer name here?
Of course.
Yeah, so ShopRite's in the New Jersey, the Northeast there. They're an interesting group, but we're building that business steadily, and they really like what we do.
Obviously, you do cases, refrigerated cases, and that's kind of where I want to pivot here. Since you're buying a lot of components that might be self-contained or otherwise, does the AIM Act really challenge you like it does other, vendors who are doing connected to bigger systems?
Yeah, so we do a bunch of, mainly grab and go self-contained cases. So we've had to switch over to R290 like everybody else. And what the challenge with that is, we used to make some larger self-contained cases that meted a need, and they with the charge limits, we can't sell those into the U.S. anymore. You know, so that's an issue. You know, I had a conversation with a very large customer a while ago, and they wanted sushi cases, but they need them self-contained because they need to add them into existing stores. And yeah, we can't do that anymore. And we used to do that quite a bit.
So we had a gentleman from Low Rental on here several weeks back, and he talked a lot about the difference in grocery in Europe than here in the States.
Yeah.
Can you describe kind of what's going on different in Canada maybe than what's going on here?
Well, Canada has not, we don't have the same regulations yet. You know, we kind of follow what the U.S. does. But, you know, I'm not an expert in all that stuff. So I just know we have more flexibility in Canada at this point in time on the refrigerant options for us in self-contained. But it's probably gonna shift into Canada as well. I will say, you know, CO2 systems have been used in Canada for quite a long time, and we've been building cases for those programs for probably 15 years. So that's not something that's new to us.
Kind of want to widen the lens up more to a design lens or a merch lens.
Yep.
Because I got to believe there's stuff going on. Certainly if we go urban to suburban, you're going to see, you know, bodega to suburban grocery store. But do you see stuff in Canada that's perhaps a bit more, it's a bit different? And maybe rephrase, who's doing it right in Canada?
You mean the retailer?
Yeah. Who's doing it right and what are they doing?
Well, I like to talk about some of my own customers. So, I mean, the one retailer we've done a lot of work with is a brand that's owned by Sobeys, Empire Group, their parent company. It's called Farm Boy. They have about 40 locations across Ontario now. So what Sobeys has done, and what they are is a fresh focused retailer. So it's fresh, and then a couple service departments, and then prepared foods.
Oh, so there's almost no center store.
Correct.
Wow.
And whatever center store there is, it's mostly private label, own brands, and unique stuff. So it's kind of like they like to call Trader Joe's the Farm Boy of the South, but they're kind of like a bit of a Trader Joe's kind of a vibe.
Size similar?
Yes, bigger. Typically 25,000 square feet. So a lot of what happens is, as we talked about earlier, a customer goes to, you know, a big box discount banner to buy the staples, or they order it online now, and then they'll go to people like Farm Boy because I want my fresh produce. I want some good meat. I want a nice salad, prepared foods, that kind of thing, deli. So that's kind of where they're. I think that's a good model. So they can fit these into, you know, smaller store formats. They're putting them into, like, downtown Toronto has quite a number of them now, in condo towers.
You've got that kind of cornered, and then you got the kind of the more big suburban player in Canada.
Yeah.
Well, who's doing it right?
Well, the biggest one is Loblaws, and they are on a big program to renovate a lot of their stores. So they're powerhouse. They're very a great pioneer in the private label product, right, with their President's Choice brand. So they've figured that out, and they bought Shoppers Drug Mart, the largest drugstore chain in Canada. So they've been putting food into those. So they're making them into little food / beauty, health and beauty stores. So I think they've got a good model. The second largest one is Sobeys, and they've got a discount banner. Everybody's putting money in their discount banners.
Yeah, it seems like as inflation rose during and post-pandemic, that became a real opportunity. Certainly in this country, Walmart really took advantage of that. So you supply a fair amount of product down here in the States, right?
Yep.
So it's got to be somebody down here in the fresh side that you're supplying your product to that is probably doing a good thing. So talk to me about somebody down here.
I think the ShopRights do very well. We work with Price Chopper, Market 32. We do a lot of all their specialty cases.
Honestly, that's how I met you.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I
it's
met
for them.
you
Yeah,
some of that. That's almost 15 years ago now.
yeah, yeah,
That we were doing
yeah,
the rollout
yeah,
of 32.
yeah,
And so there
yeah,
was some very exciting cases in there
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. We do. We're starting to do more and more in their prepared foods area. So hot salad bars, soup bars, hot food cases, that kind of thing.
So is your convenience kind of rest in that prepared food zone?
What we're seeing in our area, some of the C-store chains are actually they're rebranding some of them and putting them in urban markets, so downtown locations, and they're like mini grocery stores. Seeing some of that. A lot of the things that we do for C-stores will be those grab and go plug-in cases. And then modular islands, hot and cold, dry modular islands is a lot of what we do.
Do you find that you're getting into stuff that's more kind of food driven or airports or grab and go or other things? Is that an emerging market for you?
Not well. We used to do more of that, cafes and bakeries and delis, and a little bit more food service. But we kind of it's difficult to play in that market just because it's just a different way to go to business. There's dealers involved. There's different layers of people involved, and airports are challenging environments, and we've had it where cases got spec'd in and people didn't know what they were doing when they installed it, and then of course it comes back to us. It's kind of becomes a finger pointing game. But yeah.
How do you design for like this grab and go environment versus say a browse and pick environment?
It's about how the product is used. For grab and go, it's about what's convenient, placement of the cases. And that I see that evolving at convenience stores, more of that can be grab and go meal snacks, but more of a health focus too, right? Like people don't want to just get the hot dog that's been rolling on that roller for 3 hours. Like they want salads, they want, so it's interesting times.
Do you see anything that you see buying habits changing? Do you see doing some different things now than you might have been 5 or 10 years ago?
I just see this whole trend towards fresh, like people are investing in produce. There's I don't think enough retailers are doing enough with it. Like I'm of the opinion, like, let's put labor where it makes sense, So we have self-checkouts, okay, but let's have somebody actually working in the produce department selling you something, like telling you, like, what kind of health problem do you have? Well, do you know that this can help you with that? Like, you make everybody work so hard, and people are more, I think, they want that information. So what can we do to do more of that?
You kind of snuck AI in about 30 minutes ago
Yeah.
when we were talking through,
Mm-hmm.
how you're doing something in your office.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a role for technology in store?
Oh, yeah, I definitely think so. You could ask ChatGPT, put together a nutrition program. I've got these issues, that kind of thing. But then stores should also be kind of working with people with that, like, I don't know. I just find there's too much labor picking stuff off the shelf, putting it in boxes to ship it out. And there's not enough of that kind of human to human service kind of interaction.
That's an interesting observation you just made. We've deployed the labor in store to try to meet a different service channel, a different need state.
And my thing is, I don't think they're making money at that. I mean, how can, we're always hearing about, we got to take labor out, so more self-service, more grab and go. Okay, but then why can I not, if I'm in the store, I made the effort to come here, but some employee is standing in front of the shelf that I need to get my stuff from.
Please do not get me started about the friction of large-scale carts in that environment. It's a very unpleasant shop because it's like, you're right. They always seem to be where you need to be. And convenience is a need state even when you're in store. There's an expression we use around here, small is the new big. Do you feel like formats are getting smaller? Is that a thing? We work with one of the biggest grocery stores in the world, so it's not a thing there, but somehow I think environmentally that the way you feel, the way you can merchandise, that small might be the new big, especially if you're having stuff home delivered.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that statement?
Definitely, I see that, and that's where I think when I see the blurring of the lines between a supermarket and a C-store or a drugstore, like everybody's getting into food, but so people, they'll go to the Walmart to do their big family shop kind of a thing, right? But there's a lot of people who don't want to do that. Like that's a big commitment for me. I just want to get in and get out. I don't want to be around a ton of people, but I want healthy and fresh options. Who's going to give that to me?
You would think that it's some kind of a oxymoron that you go to a small store to not be around people, but that store's frighteningly busy. You find yourself being there right when they open, so you can actually kind of get through it. So I think it matters. I think the environment matters. What other things do you think we're going to see in groceries, say 5-10 years down the road?
Well, we're part of this evolution, like more food service at retail. That continues to trend, and we're part of that. People are more open to going to the supermarket to get their meal as food prices go up, and I can get decent food there. I can sit down at some of them. Sometimes you can get a glass of wine with it. Some of those markets, and I don't have to wait. I don't have to pay a tip, and the prices are pretty good. It's fresh. So I think the food options you're just going to see continue, Moroccan chicken and, a lot of different international type foods, which you didn't see even 20 years ago, 10 years ago. We are evolving what we're offering in terms of hot cases, hot holding cases. And we're just building out all those solutions. Again, making it modular, flexible, adaptable to different environments. So you can scale it up, scale it down, depending on the size of the location.
Electrification in vehicles was going to take over the world. Do you think as we move toward an electrified future that we get away from gas and go, that convenience runs a risk of becoming irrelevant?
I think they're trying to figure out a way to get people into the store and get them to linger longer. Quick Trip in Wisconsin, they're a great convenience chain, and what you go in there and they have bakeries, they are sampling food in a convenience store, and you got a whole range of options in terms of foods that you can pick up, a snack or a meal. So I think that kind of thing where you create an experience that kind of entices people to, and you give them a lot of different options, healthy options, not just, again, the hot dog and the pizza slice kind of thing.
Yeah. If I'd asked you this question 2 years ago, it'd probably been a bit more relevant. We're going to talk about online grocery just a little bit. You did jump in there and say you don't have any clue how it's paying for itself. That's true. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
And I know it's not your thing, but what do you think has to happen for that to be profitable?
At some point, you got to get the labor out, right? Like, there's a lot of labor picking and choosing this food. Somebody's getting paid to do the shop for you. Can you charge enough for that? I don't know. I mean, what's the line at which people will say, no, that's too much, I'm not going to do that? You're starting to see that with some of the food delivery, DoorDash and all that kind of thing.
Well, you're starting to see the rebellion of the person who's having to pay the fees, which is the vendor, for sure.
Yeah. Maybe it's robots, picking the food. And
we've been through that, and certainly we know the folks at AutoStore extremely well. We work with them for a number of years trying to understand, especially cold chain, keeping the cold and working it through low temp and medium temp and robots and things like that.
Yeah.
But that has a pretty high floor of economics to actually get one of those in, and
Yeah.
I don't think it works at the store level yet, even
Right.
close.
Yeah.
I know some big grocers who have some installed base. HEB is one of them
Mm-hmm.
that has put in that particular product.
Yeah.
But I think you're still in a pretty wide distribution model
Yeah.
because of the economics of the
Yeah.
robotics. Were you ever worried that the online shop was going to make what you do more irrelevant?
We focus on the fresh perimeter departments, the prepared foods. It's just not something that a lot of people are comfortable with ordering on their computer.
So where are you taking Cayuga next? We don't have to go onto the design floor and steal some double secret new design. But where do you want to see Cayuga go?
Yeah, I have a revenue target in mind and kind of where I want to get that to. Us get to this point where we've got a lot of what we talked about earlier, the processes, get that nailed down, lean the kind of the soft side of the business, so to speak, and get some more of this product standardization under our belts, and then we can. I know we can take it to the next level, offering what the market wants, but also keeping our prices competitive and having efficient designs.
What do you think's going to happen with grocery in the future?
People are stressed about price, so value is going to continue to be a very important thing. The customer shopping habits is very fractured, right? And I think that's going to continue. So they're going to buy this online and going to buy this from the best value, but I think still people are going to want to pick some things themselves, the important stuff, and they'll pay extra for that.
Do you want to see all the important stuff in a Cayuga case?
Yeah, I mean,
well, you said there's a difference between important and not important, so
Yeah,
I was just intrigued.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you want to? Ruling the world means you want to see everything that's the good stuff in your stuff.
I want to be like an industry leader. I want us to be an industry leader in the sandbox we play in. The trend I see in the market is a lot of competitors getting bought up by private equity or larger companies, and then they're rationalizing product lines. So they're getting out of this, and they're getting out of that, and they're getting out of that. Which for us, it's like, well, it creates opportunity for us. There's less players in that market. You asked about supermarkets. I think what the future is, I think people are hungering for community, and I think a supermarket could be more of that, a community hub. Music, food, bringing people together, events, some people like Lowe's play around with that kind of thing. Singles nights, there's a store in Toronto, downtown Toronto, that Sobeys put in, and I love to tell this story. So it was kind of this kind of urban legend, or you'd hear this buzz. It's where single women went to shop because they would check out what these single men were buying for food. This guy's buying nothing but pork rinds and potato chips now, but that guy's buying salad and healthy food. So it's kind of that. It's kind of an interesting story of what a supermarket can do for a community.
That's really funny. So that tells me that the real important stuff would come in a Cayuga case at that point, because you're probably not going to merchandise pork rinds.
No.
Well, Chris, thank you very much for joining us today.
Sure, yeah,
right
you're
here
very welcome.
On the BUILT2SUIT podcast. And you guys can ingest and enjoy the important stuff of this podcast where podcasts are served, or on the BUILT2SUIT website. Focus in on this great conversation and many more in industry. We are the BUILT2SUIT podcast, built to build what is next. I'm Greg Simpson, and we'll see you next time.